Hello and welcome to Art School Live. My name is Mandy Tice and I am subbing for Eric Rhodes while he is away on one of his art adventures. And today we have the fabulous Richard Lindenberg joining us to give a demo. Richard, welcome to the show.
Hi, Mandy. Good to see you again.
So lovely to see you again. I had so much fun when we were at the PACE convention in Reno just a few weeks ago. And tell us what you're going to teach us about today, Richard.
Well, the truth is, when I teach workshops, the most common thing that I hear is that people talk about, why can't I paint faster? How do I do that? And I have an exercise that I do with them, and I do two 20-minute, like I'll do one painting, we'll all paint the same tree, let's say, and we'll do a 20-minute, we'll do a short critique, and we'll do another 20-minute, which forces them to not be critical about what they're doing. It forces them to think quick, be instinctive with their brush, and that's what I'm going to try and do today and show everybody.
Excellent. I can't wait to learn with you today. Let's get the show started.
Okay.
It's Art School Live with Eric Rhodes. Now, here's your host, Eric Rhodes.
You may have noticed that I am not, in fact, Eric Rhodes. My name is Mandy Tice. I'm the director of the School of Atelier Arts. And today we have the one, the only Richard Lindenberg joining us to teach us how to paint trees quickly and efficiently and help us kind of move a little faster in our plein air painting. So Richard, take it away.
Okay, I'm going to probably need to readjust my camera to the painting itself. But I'm going to do this demo today. I'm going to move relatively quickly with a short 1-inch brush. I'm going to do the whole painting with this short 1-inch brush. So I hope you can see that basically I'm not going to be detailing. I'm thinking of it as shapes and, not being critical about what I'm doing. I'm just being faster about it in general so that I'm not getting those little picky details. So
Well,
I'm going to turn the camera and go, okay?
All right, sounds good. As someone who hates washing brushes, I'm so excited to see a whole painting done with just one brush.
All right, tell me if my painting is visible.
If we could get a little closer, that would be great.
I can zoom closer, but it's hard to get any closer than this.
Can you rotate it to your left slightly?
To my left.
We're getting it
like that, or this
rotate,
way.
Yeah, like that, but then push your whole. We're just getting a really skewed view right now. Can you put it behind you slightly more?
Yeah, I don't want to trip over the.
Okay.
How about that?
All right, that's better. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to go for it.
All right, go for it.
Are we centered all right?
We're pretty good, and I'm sure the people in the chat will let us know if they have any ideas about how to get it tighter. But
okay,
you're painting pretty quick today, so we'll go for it.
Okay, so what I did up here, you can't really see it, but I put some basic patches of color, and what this is a transparent red oxide wash, and then I just use a turp towel and quickly just put in the shape. I don't know if you're able to put on my demo painting, that I sent in or not, Mandy.
Let me see if I can get it up for you.
This is the general shape of the tree, and it's basically a tree portrait, but I'm not going to paint it as a tree. I'm going to paint it in shapes. So I'm going to go at it real quick, okay? And everybody always says start with the darkest darks in a painting. And I go a little bit higher in value than the darkest. I'll do a little bit dark, but I use this big brush pretty much through this whole painting. And I don't think about it too much in terms of detailing. I'm just putting in washes, big shapes, washes, moving the brush up and down. Oh, that's another thing I wanted to show you. So this one brush, you can do fat shapes by doing it sideways. You can do a corner with a thinner line. You can do a dot. You can do, a line like that. There's a lot of things you can do with a big fat brush.
I really enjoyed that they gave us a sample of this brush at the PACE conference this year in our goodie bag.
Yeah, it's a brush that I have learned to like a lot. And I use the big version of this. It comes both in a short one and a big one. And I'm not going to mention the manufacturer, but you see that blue line around it? That-
Yes.
That's that's what makes it that's what
So
makes it from this company. So
Rich,
I'm just
really quick, do you think you could rotate your easel just slightly towards the camera, like more parallel towards the camera? Maybe that
no,
would.
I
Oh, you
can't, but I'll
can't.
try and move the tripod a little bit more.
Oh, there. That's so much better, right
Okay.
there. Okay, thank you.
All right. So I'm just basically, as you can see, I'm just sketching in real rough, following that general theme that I put down in the red transparent oxide. And as I said, I just wiped out that transparent oxide.
Wonderful. And just so you know, we do have your sample image up on the screen. So if you want
Okay,
to
great.
refer to that.
So you can see this is a dark, but it's not quite going to be my darkest dark. I'm leaving some room at the end to actually put in little accents of much darker dark, not much darker, but darker dark. So you can see I'm moving this brush in a lot of different ways. I'm not being critical. I'm just sort of putting in rough shape. I'm scrubbing with it. I'm doing lines with it. I put in the general horizon line earlier.
Excellent. And this brush is really allowing you to work quickly. I was wondering how you were possibly going to paint a whole tree in 20 minutes. And I'm
Yeah.
seeing now that your brush is a big part of that.
What do you mean 20 minutes? Don't I have more than that?
You do. Sorry. I thought you were saying that you had your students do 20-minute painting.
Oh, I do. When I
Yeah.
do them, yes. But then I critique after 20 minutes. So, all right,
Ah.
I'm moving to the next value or two up from there. And you can see the shift in the value, but it's still dark. It's still dark.
So do you usually start with your darkest darks first when you're painting trees?
Not quite the darkest. I do, if let's say we're using a 1 to 10 ratio,
Mm-hmm.
I'll start with about a 9 or an 8 even.
Okay.
And then I save that room later to go in and punch the darks, and I do the same thing with the light. So basically there's my darks. And I don't worry about the little holes in it like this because it's really easy to just come back later and just rough it up like that. Okay, so I'm going to move up again into the lighter value of green, and I'll put in another big shape, rotating the brush when I need to. And this is not a tube green, it's a mixed green of several different colors, probably blue and yellow, and then I'll put a little red to knock it down.
Could you quickly walk us through the colors you keep on your palette?
Yeah, I use a cool and a warm of basically yellow, red, and blue. And then I have supplemental like yellow ochre as a supplement to knock down values and things like that. So, cad lemon or cad light. And then I'll use the yellow ochre. I'll use a cad orange. I'll have a cad red medium and a alizarin for my darkest red, my coolest red. Then I'll use ultramarine, and then I even use indigo, which is a really dark, rich blue that I use for mixing more than painting.
Ah. I'm relatively new to plein air painting myself. And when I was at the plein air convention, I heard a lot of people talk about mixing blue into their colors to represent the atmosphere in painting.
Mhm.
Is that something that you do as well?
Yeah, blue always, the rules of atmospheric perspective dictate that there's moisture as you move back. So you're usually always using blue to push back what's behind. Like in this example, there's the main tree, but behind it is the hillside, and that's really blued down a lot. So yes, you use blue quite a bit.
So there's a question in the chat about at what stage in the painting do you lay down the trunks or the major tree branches?
In this particular case, I would lay it down at the end, and usually that is where I do it at the end.
Mhm.
Because you've got that dark established, and then you just go right over it and put in the trunk.
So is it fair to say that you're kind of massing in with your values as a primary thought, and then the trunk gets established later?
Absolutely. I'm only doing shapes right now, and I'm going to build up the final, I'm going to build up to that lighter tone as I move through these shapes. I'm just basically mimicking what I did with that transparent red oxide. And I'm not thinking about it as a tree. I'm only thinking about it as shapes.
Would you be able to hold up your brush really close to the camera? People are wanting a closer look.
Can
Can
you
you go
see?
even closer for me? Yeah, there we go. Great. Thank you.
And this is a short one, but they also make a long version of the same brush.
Oh, so do you have a preference on handle length, short or long?
If I'm in close like this, I love using a short brush.
Mhm.
When I have the room to stand back, I'll often use the longer handle. But it's just a preference. It's not. I can go either way. It makes no difference to me.
I'm finding as I get more and more into plein air painting that I'm trying to make my kit the smallest I can get away with carrying, and it makes a big difference having the short handled brush that
Oh
fits.
yeah, I understand. Okay, so as you can see, I got that second value not locked in. I haven't done any of the highlight values at all. So it's shape. That's really what I'm going after here.
At this stage of a painting, like how locked in do you want your shape? Are you being super careful in your shape? Or are you getting just a general idea?
Not at all.
Okay.
At this point, not at all.
Mhm.
I'm really paying attention to where I am with that, where I am with it, and in relation to the original scene or painting that I did. This is a painting that I did a while ago, and I'm not worrying about edges. I'm putting in general shape, and I keep stepping back, and I'm just looking at the general shape. Okay, so now I got that. Now I have a choice now. I can start. Why don't I do what you said, and I'll go after the background just so you can see how it pushes the foreground forward.
Excellent.
So I'm using a mix. It's basically a grayed down blue with a dash of yellow in it to make it sort of green, but still remaining that blue. And I test it. That's too dark. I test it first before I start going at the color. I'm just mixing it on the fly. Yeah, okay. So that blue is now really pushing back
Hmm.
where the distance of this hillside goes. And you can see in the demo painting that there's these patches of hill that are golden in the background. And I can leave room, or I can just paint it over when I'm done. I'm still just looking at it as big shapes. You can see I'm not paying any attention really to much detail. I'm just trying to give you an idea of where this is going in terms of that back hillside and the depth created by the atmosphere perspective of the blue. See
Karen's
how
saying that
it's all pushed back now?
yes, Karen actually just typed in the chat. It's amazing how one color can change an entire painting.
Right. So then there's going to be detail on top of that. You got these hillsides, the orange hillsides coming down, but you were talking about, how do I treat the forward area as compared to the blue in the background? So that's what it's doing. It's pushing it way back.
Mm.
Now, if you really want to push it back further, I can mix some of that grayish white and the blue in the sky, so I can really show how this thing moves back. So I'm taking a pile of white, putting a dash of that blue in to make it gray, and putting a dash of red in. And let's see how that works. So this is the underside of the cloud. Again, I'm not paying, it's easy to contaminate, so you got to be careful, but I'm moving quick.
Do you have any advice for our viewers about how to not contaminate?
Yeah, you move a little slower when you get to the edge, or you let it set up and dry a bit, and then you come back and fix it.
I see.
Um, it's really difficult. Or you wipe your brush more frequently. Really.
Do you use any media or medium for your paints when you're painting, or is this just pure pigment on panel?
No, it's pure pigment pretty much, but when it stiffens up, yes, I'll use medium.
Mhm.
And I have on my studio, I have a combination of stand oil and Gamsol, which is a little bit thicker than I would use out in the field.
Mhm.
And out in the field, I'll put in just basically a little terp now and then. Sometimes I'll use uh, a walnut oil, like an alkyd walnut oil made by a vendor that I like. All right, so now I'm going to put in some more blue into that sky just to separate.
Oh, wow.
So now you got the cloud forming.
So my understanding is that the top part of the sky is the part of the sky that's closer to us, so it has less of that diminished chroma in it, and that the background, of course, is more diminished in chroma because it's further away from us. Is that fair to say?
You're talking about in the background?
Yeah, well, I'm talking about the top part of the sky is actually closest to us, right? That's why it's more chromatic. Is that correct?
No, it's because it's separated from the cloud. It's not that it's closer.
Oh,
You're just creating the illusion of having a moving cloud back there.
I see.
And I don't think of it as being more forward. I'm keeping it intentionally back.
Hmm.
So, and then highlighting that cloud, I would do that near the end of the painting. But basically you can just move the shape around. Are you seeing this all okay?
We're seeing it pretty well. And for those of us just joining us, we had a little bit of a tech issue today, so we can't get as close as we would like to. But we are able to see quite a bit here, Rich. So thank you.
Okay, so that's just a general. So now you can see the basic tree portrait. It's all blocked in a darker tone of green and in that dark brownish, blackish, purplish green.
It's astonishing that you really only have 5 colors down, and yet we're getting a whole scene that feels, connected and locked in.
Absolutely. But like I said, as the painting goes through further, I'm going to start really embellishing the detail of the painting and the light in the painting. So things like this, just putting in a little bit of a bush down there. You
Mm.
can paint right over what you put in and clearly, make a statement about what it is you want to do. So it picks up some of the previous paint, but it still shows the value shift in the color. So now, do I want to put down further, like, yeah, I'm letting what I would do at this point normally in the field, I would let this paint set up and I'll keep moving in and blocking in the other shapes. By the time I'm ready to go back to this, it's a little bit more tacky. So it
Mhm.
allows me to move in and put some more detail. So I'm going to go.
Do you have any general advice for people that might be new to plein air painting? They're going out into the field for the first time. Like, are there like a top 3 mistakes that newbies make that you want to address?
Well, composition first. You want to have, when you go to a corner of a painting like I'm at right now, you don't want it to just lead directly there. You want to have a piece go down. But it's just practice. It's just moving and observing what you're looking at and simplifying by squinting and really taking a closer look at what you're doing. But move the big shapes. These are all big shapes. You got background, hill, sky, tree, road, foreground. 6 shapes, 5 shapes. So you want to get that in before you start putting any detail. It's so common for people who are inexperienced to start putting down the tree limbs and putting down the shapes and making all that happen early in the painting, and you don't really want to. I forgot to put this in. So I can come back right on top and do that again.
So when you're layering your paint, you're anticipating that you're going to be picking up a little bit of what's underneath.
Oh, absolutely, because it's still wet. It's still oil. So that you're going to pick up, you can't help it. And eucalyptus trees always have this kind of umbrella shape at the top. That's just a characteristic of the tree. And I'm not worrying about the branches too much. Again, I'm just putting in big shapes. Okay, that's better than what I had. I just forgot to put that in. And it's picking up a lot of that blue, so I want to put some yellow in there just to. Okay, so now let me continue on the base of the. I'm going to continue painting in this lower area of the painting. There's a bush that's coming down here. And you see, I'm not painting a bush. I'm just painting some shapes. All right, and then I got this beautiful, like a purplish color down here, purple gray, blue gray.
You make it look so effortless. It's really delightful to see this come together.
It is effortless if you think about it. You don't want to paint a tree. You don't want to paint things. You want to paint shapes.
That's great advice right there.
Okay. All right, the roadway, I'm okay with the way the road's going. Let me put in that beigey grassy area. And so I think we're probably around 10 minutes into it, right? Not a whole lot more than that.
Yeah, just about that. And look how the whole painting is kind of set. You know, it's amazing to me that you can get so much information in such a small amount of time with that nice big brush.
It goes really fast when you use this kind of brush. And that's the whole purpose. You're really thinking about it. You're not at all thinking about the bush or the tree or the sky, maybe the sky a little bit.
Okay, so I have a question. You know, when you're out there in the field and you're painting a sky, what is your strategy for locking in your sky when, you know, the sky is constantly in motion?
Put it in quick. Put it, you get a shape that you're seeing in the sky. You just throw it on real quick. That's all. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because it's moving, right? So
right. Well, do you ever second guess yourself or like chase the shapes, or once you have it down, you're like, I don't care what happens, that's it forever?
Yeah, because I'm not really thinking. You don't think, you do that kind of thing. Whether that's good or not, I don't know.
Allison is saying it's much more fun to look at these big shapes than focusing on the details.
So say it again.
Allison in the chat is saying, and this is much more fun than focusing on the details.
Oh yeah, but now I'm going to go for the details a little bit. So I want to continue to put in. So this whole painting is now covered in big shape, right? It's not. There's very little detail, but yet you can see the painting. You can see where I'm going with it. You've got a clear definition of the base. This section of a tree is always on the darker side because that's the core of the tree.
Well, that's an interesting way to conceptualize a tree. So you kind of think inside out, like the core of the tree towards the outside?
Well, you don't really think about it, but that's where the darkness, that's where the dark accent of this painting happens in the core of the tree.
Can you clarify for us when you're cleaning your brush, are you using any sort of terps or is it just a clean towel?
Right now, you mean as I'm painting?
Yeah, right now.
Oh, if it's changing color, because I'm using one brush, I'm shifting from chromas. So yes, I have to clean it with some terp beforehand. It doesn't have to be too thorough, but yes, you got to clean it. All right, where do I move from here? Okay, I'm going to start putting in a little more a little more value shifting. And you see me moving, the brush is going in different directions. It's not static moving in any one direction. In fact, I have a rule. Every time I go a horizontal or a diagonal shape like that, I do one or two strokes in that direction, making it perpendicular. And the reason is it keeps it from being static, keeps your eye from going boom, boom. It's
Mm.
it's moving your eye. So now I'm looking at this and I'm seeing where some of that dark, I've obliterated some of that dark that I put in earlier. So I'm putting a little bit more back, more of it back.
When you're putting these darks in, are you conceptualizing the form as being like a rounded form, or are you kind of thinking it in a flat way and just identifying lights and darks?
Well, it's like painting a ball.
Mm,
Your darks are going to shift to a medium, to a higher value, and then to the highest value as it turns. So
excellent.
that's what you're basically trying to do with these values. I don't know if I'm answering your question
Oh, it
effectively.
definitely answered my question. I love that because, sometimes we get sucked into thinking, "Oh, leaf and tree," and we get in that symbol idea, but the tree is creating a rounded form, and your color choices are reflecting what happens on a rounded form.
Yeah. So see how the brush is square, creating a square shape there?
Mhm.
So I don't want to have it only go in that direction. I'm going to pull some that way. And
Mm.
that's going to help create that form by moving the brush around.
So I see some excitement for eventually getting some tree trunk in there, but how do you maintain the discipline about doing the big ideas, and like how do you prevent yourself from just like attacking that tree trunk? Because there's definitely some excitement in the chat about you putting in that trunk.
Uh, how do I think about when I put it in, you mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Um, well, just because you asked, I'll put it in right now. How's that?
There you go. We're peer pressuring him with our undisciplined minds.
All right. So what color am I going to make it? In this one, it's got a lot of blue and a little bit of almost a light gray, but I'm going to warm it up a little bit from there. I'll still use that blue, but let's just put some shape in. It's always wider at the base. And as I do it, it gets thinner as I move up.
Hmm. It seems like you're putting it in kind of segments. Can you talk a little bit about your technique there?
Yeah, well, the tree is breaking up like this is going to be obliterated after
Mhm,
because the tree leaves are coming over the branches there.
mhm.
And then I can always lighten it up. I can always darken it. But this is just an indication of where things are going. And if I was out in the field, I'd be really observing what what the actual trunk is doing. Most people don't ground their trees, so I always pay attention to that. When I mean grounding, they don't just go into the ground straight. They always flare at the base a little bit.
Mm.
And you'll see that if you look at trees out in the field, you'll see that. So here's a good example. See, there's a shape there, so I'm skipping that area.
Oh, that makes sense. Do you have any general advice for making, tree limbs look believable?
Um, yeah, fatter at the bottom, thinner at the top,
Excellent.
and not so straight. They
Mm,
move. These tree limbs, very Mother Nature doesn't really allow for um, things to be too human, so they're not straight. So that's just an indication of where it is. I'm going to move back now. I'm cleaning my brush because you asked, because I'm going to move back to that lighter green color.
Mhm. We're so satisfied in the chat. We really wanted that.
You're what?
We were so satisfied in the chat. We really wanted to see some of those limbs.
All right, and here's another thing. You always have to pay attention to the light source. So in this one, the light is coming down from somewhere up there. So this side of the tree is going to be much lighter, but I'm still using a light color, but I'm still coming in, and it's picking up from underneath and being sort of like a mid-tone shift, not quite not quite the exact color that I was intending, because it's picking up from below. But you see, I'm you can see me moving this in this direction. Well, now I'm going to move some down here because I want the eye not to be stuck. So that's that diagonal that I was just talking about. And
I love how your brush strokes are just really creating so much description of the shape, and that diversity in the strokes that you're using is really interesting to watch you paint.
Thank you.
Could you give us just a little bit more information about mixing your colors, or would it be possible to just see your palette for a minute?
I'd have to pick the camera up off the tripod.
Oh, maybe we could do that at the end, and we can
Okay,
talk about some of
sure.
your color mixes at the end. But
Sure.
there's definitely interest in how and what you're mixing.
Yeah. And what I did earlier, and you can't really see it, but I did earlier for me, just I could see shifts in the piles. These are the 7 piles that I created, or 8 piles that I created. And I'm moving them around. I'm not going to use them as they are exactly. But that was my starting point. So I had some piles already mixed of that.
So you just kind of look out into your scene before you ever start painting, and you pre-mix somewhat neutralized piles for your
Yes.
painting?
Yes, exactly. And I'll usually think of it as the darkest dark, a dark, a lower mid-tone, a higher mid-tone, so this one has at least 5 different values in there. I don't know that I'll be able to achieve that in the short period of time we have, but
Well, our guest host from yesterday, 𝗣𝗶𝗁 𝗕𝗶, I definitely check out yesterday's video if you didn't get a chance to see it. She's giving you a major shout out here. She's like, Richard knows how to paint trees! Exclamation point! Exclamation point! Exclamation point! You have a fangirl in the chat.
she's a good friend. Barbara's a great painter.
Oh, yes, she is.
And a wonderful personality.
It's so much fun. Well, that's the great thing. One of the things I love most about, spending time with the landscape community is just how much fun you all are. You like to be outside, you're all nice, you like to paint together. It's a really nice community.
Absolutely. That's probably one of the better things about it, especially plein air events. I used to do a lot of them. I don't do them anymore, only because I'm getting older, and it's just a lot of energy to do those events. So I still do Sonoma plein air, but I've given up. I've done Laguna. I've done some of the bigger events in the country. But as I've gotten older, it just takes too much energy.
Well, I find that traveling with paints can be a frustrating experience.
Traveling with paints?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, you got to be careful of the airlines, that's for sure.
Yeah. Well, part of my problem is I'm a bit of a kamikaze person when it comes to paints. Like sometimes I try to put them on my carry-on just to see if they'll let me. Sometimes,
Well, here's a tip. Don't travel with brushes in your carry-on, because I've had them confiscated. They think they're spears,
What? They took your brushes? Were
Yep.
they the long handle brushes?
Yep.
Oh.
And they took them, because theoretically, if you held them in your hand, you could puncture somebody's neck and kill them with a brush. So I don't any longer carry them.
Oh, well, that's a good warning for the rest of us.
Okay.
One time I tried to get away with carrying them on, and they tested every single tube of paint. And then of course they put on the caps all sloppy, and it was a big mess.
Yeah. Yeah, they have no idea.
Well, I was told make sure that you call them artist colors made from vegetable oil and not call them oil paint because I guess
Yeah,
there's a
actually, just for the people who don't know, Eric has, if you go to the Streamline website, you'll be able to find, um, he's got a thing that you put in with your paints that describes exactly what you're talking about.
Oh, that's such a good idea. So definitely make sure to check out Eric's like go to the Streamline website and check that out if you're traveling.
Okay. So things are getting a little bit muddy at this point, so I need to sharpen up. Um, so now I got to start paying attention to, I do that by looking at the darks again. So like this area is a little muddy, but there's a gap
Mm.
that comes down and that helps define that form.
This is such a good piece of information. I think all artists at some point struggle with muddying their paintings, and so just re-clarifying your darks can be so helpful.
Yeah, and I do define them throughout the painting actually.
Mhm.
Because I see where it's weak, where it's starting to blend together too much. And so like this whole area is getting very blendy. So by doing this, I can redefine that area. So I'll even push with the point. Matt Smith taught me this one.
Oh,
If
do
you
that
want,
again.
if you want to get some thin, like, let's say I was doing an edge like up here, and I wanted the sun to be really sharp, backlit, I could just push and define that
Oh,
much more by pushing than by stroking.
I love
That's
that.
a stroke and that's a push. And if it gets too clumpy, just go over it a little bit.
So this is a question I have as a relatively new painter of trees. How do you keep all those clumps from looking the same or like a pattern instead of looking like a natural tree?
Mm, I don't really think about it other than I try to define these shapes into little masses. So by continuing to refine and not stopping until you're satisfied,
Hmm.
you really really able to do that. So you by stepping back and looking, Mandy,
Hmm.
you can tell where it's working and where it's not working.
So we have just a few minutes left, and we did promise a view of the palette, and people definitely want to see your painting up close. So maybe,
Oh. Well, let me just 1 second. I'll do
yeah,
one
yeah.
more thing up
Finish
here.
finish your thoughts here, but we
We're
definitely
almost done. You mean?
we just have a few minutes left. Yes.
Okay. All right. So I did this back hillside.
Ooh, I love that note. I got chills when you put that down.
So it's creating a little dimension in that hill, and I could really push it. And then up here, you're just basically tapping and pushing and pulling and standing back and looking at it. So the general shape is there. I would probably spend I don't know, another 30 minutes on this, really defining this painting a lot more. But for the purpose of this, that's about all I can do.
Yeah, well, we loved seeing your process and thank you so much for being so clear and talking us through, what you're thinking and how you're, uh, going through each stage of your painting and getting those really big shapes defined. That's really fascinating to see you build this painting.
Okay, so now you want me to take this off and show you the palette?
We want to see the palette, and we definitely want a close up of your painting as well.
Okay, so I'm gonna turn this around and
Oh,
then
there he is, the one and only.
how do I flip it so that I can see what I'm looking at?
So there's a little button with two arrows that.
N-
Um,
Yeah, not on this. There is on the camera. I'll just go in. You tell me if I'm.
Okay, go closer. Go closer. Closer, closer. We wanna really see it up tight, and then maybe you can scan from right to left.
Is that good?
Yeah, yeah. Oh, it's so good to see up close. And look at that orange pop through. That's such
Y-
a beautiful moment. Okay, and can
All
we see
right.
the
And
left
then if I
side?
come down to the palette, I'll try and point it out. Can you see the palette okay?
Yep, we can see the palette.
Okay. So here are this is my basic palette. So I've got the white, the yellow, the ochre, the orange, the red, the alizarin, the ultra, the indigo. Then I have a supplement color. This is olive green. Then I use this is an umber or something like that. And then there's a black just in case I need it. So I pre-mixed my darkest dark, my secondary dark, a dark green, this middle green. This was a light green that turned into a darker green, then a really light green, then that's that foreground, the weed colors. There's the sky. This was the clouds, so it's, I'm moving around. That's all my dead supplemental colors over here. They're all dried up at this point. I need to, shave my palette. But this area of the palette is always kept clean for mixing. And then at the end of the day, I just take this little L-shaped plexi thing and I put it in a tube with some clove oil on the edges, and it keeps it fresher than normal. So that's a good tip.
Excellent.
There's I can't mention companies. So, but I went to a a plastic store in the area, and they have this extruded L shapes already done.
Excellent.
So anyway,
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Richard. It was such a delight to watch you paint.
I'm breathing fast. It's very fast moving.
It is. And, a lot of us are painters, and, what a joy that you could share with us today. Because, not all painters are willing to put themselves in this, heart racing, situation of painting under the gun like this. So thank you for joining us.
Okay. So again, big shape, move to detail as you get further into the painting.
Perfect last words. Don't forget to visit Richard's website at 𝗕𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 I hope you enjoyed today's demo. You can see my videos on my YouTube channel at School of Atelier Arts. And you can also see more of my work at schoolofatelierarts.com and follow me on social media at Mandy Fine Artist. I have a gift for you. Download the free ebook, 201 Essential Plein Air Painting Tips. Go to pleinairmagazine.com/ebook. And if you haven't signed up for Gouache Live, it is time to do so. Main tickets start at $47 only on August 23rd, 2025. An incredible lineup of instructors will teach you about gouache painting, and you don't want to miss it. Sign up at gouachelive.com. And let's check in on our dear friend Eric Rhodes to see what he's up to. So where in the world is Eric Rhodes?
Hey, I am in Laoshan, just outside of Qingdao. We're in a hotel today. We've been together with a bunch of artists internationally all week. Some of these artists are painting right now. Here's 𝗕𝗶𝗴. Herman,
hi, Eric.
Say hello to my audience out there.
Hi, how you going, guys?
Just tell them how wonderful I am.
Wait till you meet Eric. He's a wonderful guy.
What are you working on here?
I'm just starting a watercolor, the centre bit of a watercolor. It's near Qingdao, and it's an aerial view of China. Looking over Qingdao, looking over the water there. And I've just finished this one this morning.
All right.
This one here, this one was where we were the other day. It's just a little watercolor.
All right, excellent. Thank you.
See you, Eric.
All right, so we've got a lot of different artists here painting. These are all watercolorists. And we have actually one that speaks English. Here's Brianne Brown. Say hi, everybody.
Hi, everybody.
And Brianne's just getting started on something. She's going to do this Chinese gate that we saw yesterday. Terrific. Okay, what are you working on here?
Yes, I'm going to paint boats.
You're going to paint the boat?
Fishing boats, yes.
Tell everybody your name and where you're from.
I'm Galina Domzina from Russia.
From Russia.
From Moscow.
Okay, excellent. All right, here's John. John, this is John Dillon.
How you doing?
John Dillon, say hi.
Hi there.
John, what do you do for a living?
I'm an animator on The Simpsons.
Okay. And you're along on the trip. I'm getting called. Anyway, we have a bunch of artists here, and I just wanted to say hello, everybody. Got to go. I'm getting called to a meeting. Take care. Bye.
Okay, so Eric is in China and having lots of fun with all sorts of amazing artists there. Again, make sure to subscribe to this channel at Art School Live and on YouTube at Eric Rhodes on Instagram. And thank you all for being here. And I hope you'll all join us again tomorrow for more fabulous artists and art instruction. Thank you all, and happy painting to you all.